Hi and welcome to today's video. What I will be talking about is what is Prince2 and give you a bit more detail about the whole definition around what Prince2 is, cover the 7 principles of Prince2 and then go into a bit more detail about the process model and then cover advantages and disadvantages. This video is more of a summary rather than a full blown discussion, but I will give you a brief overview of what the main principles of Prince2 are. So firstly, a brief definition of what Prince2 is. So Prince2 stands for projects in controlled environments. A bit of a definition around that. It's a structured project management methodology, widely used. It's been used around the world, but was the conception of Prince2 was around about the 80s when the UK government had loads of failed projects. So this whole Prince2 methodology was developed around best practices and lessons learned. Since then, it's been widely adopted around the world. Lots of businesses use it. However, it has evolved from its original state to adapt to the world. But this is how it originally started, which I will cover. So the next element is really the 7 principles of Prince2. Now, those 7 principles are, firstly, continuous business justification. Now, projects, must have a valid justification before they move forward, and that's managed at that level. Secondly, is learn from experience, so i.e. lessons learned. Thirdly is define roles and responsibilities. Now within Prince2, there's a clear defined roles and responsibilities process that needs to be followed, which clearly defines who does what, when, and what there is, i.e. it's a RACI matrix, who's responsible, accountable, who do you inform and who do you consult is one of the elements. And then another element of Prince2, which is the 7 principles, is really managing by stages. Everything's broken down into manageable stages, predefined objectives, and deliverables as part of that. Next is managed by exception. Now, this is where the Prince2 defines that there's a tolerance for each project objective, allowing decision-making authority to be delegated appropriately. Now, that is a textbook question, a reply there, but in essence, it's basically the project managers have to make all the decisions, and it can be done with a team. But again, ultimately, the responsibility sits with the project manager to make the final decision. In my opinion, it's never really worked that well. And then finally, next one is focus on products. So there is a big emphasis on creating and delivering products for the primary focus of the project, which is a clear product description, quality criteria, accountability, all the rest of that around that. And then finally, tailor to suit the project environment. Now, in my experience, this doesn't happen a lot, but it is, you take bits out of Prince2 that you need, etc. But it does give you a baseline that you can use to customize and adapt to your organization. So Prince2, in essence, did offer and does offer a comprehensive and adaptable approach for project management, helping organizations achieve their project success. However, you've got to take the best things out of Prince2 and not use it as a gospel to how you're going to deliver it. Next bit that we'll be covering is the Prince2 process model. Now, process model overview is where it's how the project is a step-by-step framework of managing projects effectively. Now, what those 7 principles are, firstly, is starting up a project. This process focuses on clarification of the project objectives, identifying the stakeholders, and assessing the feasibility of the project. Is it really worth doing? The next one is directing a project. Now, this is where the senior management provide oversight and making a strategic decision on which direction the project should go, what are the objectives, and what necessary resources are there to help. So you, as a project manager, help you make a decision. And then next stage is 3 is initiation of the project. This is where actually you start doing your project planning. You undertake a comprehensive project initiation document. This is where you start building the whole scope of the project, which includes the objectives, scopes, delivery, quality, the risk processes around your whole project. And then you move on to the controlling stage. This is where you monitor project progress, managing risk, and ensure that the work packages are delivered as planned. And then from that, the fifth principle is managing product delivery. Here, the process, you focus on executing work packages that you've created, and that's actually done in the controlling stage, where the work packages are created for who's going to do what, and then you manage those work packages, which have specified deliverables, specification, and quality standards that should be met. And then you go on to managing by a stage boundary, as it's called. At the end of each stage, this process is executed to assess how well things have been done, how review has it aligned with the business case, what the plan, the next stage, etc. However, this period can be quite a lengthy period, or it's, you've done it too late to learn from some of the mistakes, and it's on to the next big project before you get it, you're allowed to actually learn from that. And then finally is closing a project. So this is where physically you close a project down, and there's process around lessons learned, how you do those, and make sure that you get things done. Now I'll talk about some of the advantages. Now, again, it's a proven framework which has been used. People have used this multiple times, so it's a proven technique which has a good success rate if used right. It has the ability to be tailored as well. You can tailor the project, the needs of Prince2, take things out that you need from Prince2 to suit you. It does have a clear roles and responsibilities, so there's no ambiguity, but that does have its limitations as well. And again, it's got a focus on business justification. So you've got a big emphasis from the business saying this is what we want to deliver, etc. And your stakeholder engagement is quite good. It does have effective project controls, so you can keep on top of monitoring and making sure your project's going in, managing risk, issues, etc. It does embrace enhanced communication. I would say not as much as Agile, but it does do that if done in the right way, because you do have to engage with stakeholders. And again, continuous learning and improvement. However, there are some disadvantages. It is complex. There's a lot of stuff. It can be rigid, which is not good if you want flexibility. It does have heavy heavy load on documentation that could be overload, which causes loads of issues. There's a degree of learning curve about Prince2 as well. You don't just learn it. If you're going to follow Prince2 properly, it doesn't just happen. You can learn it on the job, but it takes a lot longer in comparison to Agile or Scrum Master. It's a lot more simpler to manage in Agile, I would say, whereas Prince2 is a lot more harder. Again, I would say your stakeholder management isn't as much. And again, like I said, limited Agile integration. This is where the traditional Prince2, not Prince2 Agile, the traditional Prince2 has not embraced Agile, which is the buzzword one, in my opinion, is very resource intensive. However, it's a useful methodology. It's been used by many people across many industries, and it has delivered many good projects. But again, my advice in using Prince2 methodology is take the best bits and use it to run your project. Don't run it as per the textbook, because unfortunately it's very expensive. There's a lot of learning to do, and it doesn't always give you the best way to deliver your projects. I hope that was helpful, and thank you for listening.